been doing so much planning for 2022. I have like 10 different Google Docs for every aspect of YouTube and editing and social media. I have all of these video topics. The past couple weeks, I've been downloading every single video on my YouTube channel, and I'm going to make so many videos off of this. I'm going to talk about the top 10 videos I regret making the most, reacting to my most viral videos that's coming out of this. So I'm really excited for that. I want to make sure the audio is working. So let me make sure my AirPods are disconnected. Let's see if people comment that they can't hear me. Anyways, I'm so happy to be back. I have so many videos that I'm planning. I want to make sure that I have every video ready to go way ahead of time, so I'm able to post every single week. So excited for that. I have been talking on my Instagram. I recently got my N95 masks. I was just wearing this today. I might have to wear it again if I run outside. So basically I've been storing my masks in brown paper bags, which I'll talk about more. I was talking about which masks work the best during COVID and all of that. But before we get into COVID safety, because I know a lot of people don't care about that as much, I want to talk about going to mass during the pandemic. So obviously in 2020, we probably all remember, they shut down mass and all religious celebrations in the whole country. And it was during Holy Week in 2020, which was my second Holy Week ever. It was heartbreaking. It was like a huge low. My depression came back, yada, yada, yada. Everyone had a horrible experience in 2020 and has continued in so many ways. But once they opened up mass again, it was like the best thing ever. I was so excited. It just made me come alive. I was so much happier. And I made a live stream at the time talking about how in-person mass is just so much more amazing than through the live stream, and how God created us as physical beings with physical bodies. And so having everyone around us, even if we don't know each other, saying the creed together, saying all of the prayers together, doing the sign of the cross together, having holy water, all of these things are just so fundamental and beautiful and amazing for our faith. So that made me very heartbroken to be reading stats that once mass was open all over the country, mass attendance was still down a lot. And especially younger people, Gen Z, way less likely to come back to mass again after mass was opened up. And for a long time, the mass obligation wasn't on, especially if anyone is elderly or immunocompromised or taking care of someone who is. The mass obligation was just off for a long time, for many months. And in 2021, the mass obligation came back on in a majority of the dioceses in the US. Every bishop is different. Every diocese is different. Obviously, we agree on a lot of things as a country. We have the US Conference of Catholic Bishops, but it did kind of depend on where you lived. We're at a point now in the pandemic, year 3, which is just heartbreaking and horrible and exhausting. No one could have ever predicted that the pandemic would be going on this long. But recently we had original COVID, we had Delta, now we have Omicron. So I've been noticing the past 3 weeks, and I've been talking to other Catholics in other parts of the country. They've also been noticing that mass attendance is just like way down the past 3 weeks. And obviously, you know, correlation doesn't imply causation. But my guess is that our new COVID development of Omicron is the reason that people are not coming to mass as much. And I wanted to talk about that. So I've made videos talking about why there is a mass obligation. And I was actually just talking on the phone with my best friend, and she was saying, if I was forced to do something, it would stop being beautiful to me because I'm being forced to do it. And I jokingly said, well, no one's forcing you to be Catholic. Like, if someone's Catholic, they're choosing to abide by all the rules and everything. But I was explaining to her that going to mass and having the obligation is so amazing for my faith, because there are days when I feel really exhausted, swamped by work, I'm behind on all of these logistics for my life. I'm maybe in slight depression that day. Like, there are times where I think I don't want to go to mass. Like, I have that thought occasionally. And every time I go to Mass, because of the obligation, because the Holy Spirit speaking through and leading our church has said, it is so important and crucial for everyone's spiritual health that we are at Mass at least once a week, which is such a small portion of our life. And so every time the obligation is encouraging me, empowering me to go. And I absolutely love that as a foundation for my faith. Every single time I go to Mass when I don't feel like going, I always come away from it happier, more peaceful, more focused, more in love with God. Everything is just better about me. So I think a lot of people view the obligation in a negative light and don't like being forced to do things. And so many people are like, not going to Mass can be a mortal sin. That's crazy. Why would God require a weekly obligation? And so, I hear everything having to do with that. But ultimately, I chose to be Catholic. I chose to go by all these rules. I saw all these rules in the early church, and it's not something that loses value or loses meaning or loses beauty. It's something where it enlightens my faith and makes me more passionate about God, and it centers my entire week. And ultimately, Mass is my favorite thing in the world. It's the best thing in the world. It's the most important part of every single person's life. And it's been absolutely heartbreaking during the pandemic when Mass has been closed down in a lot of places. So, going to Mass during Omicron. Of course, in so many dioceses, check with your priest and figure out what's going on in your diocese. But even once the obligation was back on, a lot of bishops said, if you are elderly, if you have a pre-existing condition to where you would die if you get COVID, you don't have to come to Mass every week. There were a lot of dioceses that say you have to personally talk to your priest and get an exemption for your situation. You can't just randomly decide on your own to not come. So that was a thing that was happening. But now during the recent variant, because so many people are getting it and it's more contagious than ever before, a lot of people have just been individually, people who are not elderly, not sick, don't have a pre-existing condition, are just deciding not to come because they feel unsafe. So I've gotten so much hate, and honestly, so many people have been unfollowing me during the pandemic because I am so pro-vaccine, I am so pro-mask, I take it very seriously, and so many people hate me for it. But with this specifically, I have some tips on how to be safe. So I have not received the Eucharist for a few months, and it started off because I was going home to Florida to visit my mom who has lymphoma cancer. So chemo weakens the immune system so much that she'll definitely die if she gets COVID, and honestly, even the flu or the common cold, it's dangerous for my mom to get anything. And so leading up to going home to Florida for a month, I did not receive the Eucharist for 2 weeks. I did not take off my mask anywhere. And when I was in Florida, of course, I went to Mass every Sunday, and Christmas was a holy day of obligation. I was on Mass that day, in Mass that day, but I did not receive the Eucharist. And the reason I didn't receive the Eucharist is because I didn't have to take off my masks. Yes, I wore my surgical mask, the throwaway blue ones, and then I wore a cloth mask on top of it. So I took this very seriously. When I was at Mass, I didn't touch anything. I didn't hold a bulletin. I didn't hold the songbook. I used my foot to bring down the kneeler, which is completely against everything I stand for because I don't like when the pews crash, so I always do it with my hand. But I didn't touch anything, and who knows if COVID even spreads through touch. Probably doesn't, but I don't want my mom to die. So yeah, and I stood as far away from people as possible. So even with my mom who could die of COVID, I still found a way to follow the Mass obligation, make it to Mass on the holy day of obligation when I'm not even at my home parish, don't have transportation. I was able to get to Mass. And a lot of people feel very fearful of Omicron, which I totally get. I do not want to get COVID. Fauci is almost everyone will get COVID. I'm challenge accepted. So I definitely don't want to get COVID, but I will not stop going to Mass unless the churches are shut down. So that's how to be safe at Mass. Don't receive the Eucharist if you don't feel safe. Don't take your mask off. Don't touch anyone. Don't talk to anyone. And you can still participate in Mass. You're still able to be at Mass. You can say the creed and the prayers with everyone there. You can hear the homily. You can smell the incense, although through your mask, you can't really smell incense. I actually remember after I was vaccinated, the mask mandate came off from like the first time I was at Mass without my mask after the vaccine. I smelled incense for the first time, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is so amazing. So I do love the smell of incense without my mask, but you know, you smell a little bit of the incense even when you're wearing your mask. You see everything. You're just, because you're physically there, it's so much more meaningful and beautiful and amazing. So absolutely, there's a safe way to go to Mass, and a lot of people actually think, I need to make a whole video on this. People literally believe that it is a sin to go to Mass and not receive the Eucharist at Mass. People think it's a sin. So many people. And I've actually even known situations of someone who was Catholic growing up, went to Mass, later got divorced, and they literally don't go to Mass because they're like, I'm divorced, even though they're not remarried, so I can't receive the Eucharist, which is wrong because she's not remarried. And so I don't even go to Mass because it's a sin to not receive Eucharist at Mass. So that's absolutely wrong. You're allowed to go to Mass and not receive the Eucharist if you feel unsafe and don't want to spread it or don't want to get it. So yeah, don't receive the Eucharist at Mass. Don't talk to anyone. Don't touch anything. Like if you're very, very worried about it. But we should not have this attitude where we're disobeying the bishop and going against the bishop. If you have an individual extenuating circumstance, text your priest, talk to your priest, but we can't just individually be skipping out on a sacrament that's mandated because of what's going on, which might sound really harsh to a lot of people, but it is the most important part of our life. And like I said, if I can be with my mom who has cancer and be able to make it to the Mass obligation when it could literally kill her, everyone else is able to go. So let's talk about masking for safety. So recently, the CDC recommended everyone to get N95s, which they should have done in 2020. But you know, we did have the mask shortage where healthcare professionals shouldn't get them. So I totally understand how at that point, we didn't want, you know, regular people like me to have the N95s. We're at a point now where there are plenty of N95s. Everyone is able to buy them, access them. Obviously not everyone because of socioeconomic level. A lot of states and cities are giving them out for free, which I really love. Anyways, so I got mine from the N95 Project N95, which is really important. So my masks look like this. I got the blue turquoise ones because I wanted a cute color rather than white or black, because let's be real, getting through the pandemic by having cute masks, it's really helped me emotionally get through it. I know it's so much invalidation towards people who haven't been sick or haven't had a loved one die, but I think everyone has suffered in small ways, me with my mental illness coming back, with my depression 2020, but I think we can all agree it is exhausting for months and months and years to be dealing with this. And so personally, it's really helped me having really cute masks, having a lot of masks, matching my outfits with my masks. So anyways, having a cute color, it was important for me. I knew I'd be able to be more excited and happy. So I got a cute N95 from N95 Project. So this is what you have to do. You have to get a brown paper bag, lunch sacks. Like imagine when you were in school growing up, some people had lunch boxes, some people brought like the throwaway brown paper bag. So I'm not sponsored by Whole Foods. I went to Whole Foods after work and I asked if I could have some brown paper bags, a packet to buy. They didn't have them. So they're like, oh, we have these at checkout. When people are buying items, you can have some. So I got these for free. What you want to do is get 5. The mask, they say like 3 to 5, but I'm going to do 5 since this comes in a packet of like 20, so I have 20. Anyways, so you get your brown paper bag, and you put your mask at the end of the day in your brown paper bag, you fold it up, and you leave it in here for 5 days. And because of the environment in the brown paper bag, it gets rid of all the bacteria and toxins and everything on it. Technically, like, you're supposed to throw away your N95 mask every day. Like in the medical field, when there isn't a shortage, they throw them away every day. So the way to get, obviously we don't have supplies. A lot of people can't afford to be constantly getting N95s. So you put it in a brown paper bag. I stay home some days, I go out some days. It's super random when I decide to leave my apartment. So what I do is I write the date on the bag of when I used it, and then I fold it up, and then I can check next week which bag has the oldest date, and that's the one I'm gonna wear. I'm probably gonna get more of these just because there's some days where I'll like today I didn't leave my apartment, but then I went to mass for part of the day, but then I might go out again to go on a walk or something. So I might end up using more than one mask a day, especially since I have 20 here. So yeah, you have to use the brown paper bags or it's not gonna work. Another thing about mask safety, I don't wanna put it on right now because I have my makeup done, but this part at the top, this metal part, you have to use both of your hands, both fingers, to like snugly fit it against your face. It's gonna hurt a little bit, but these are way more comfortable wearing throughout the day because look, it's 3-dimensional. The other masks are flat, this goes out. So all of this is room to breathe. You can breathe so much easier in this. This is like 20 times better than my cloth masks or the blue surgical masks. So yeah, love this. If you can't get N95 masks, they also have the KN95 masks. N95 work better. Basically, the difference is that N95 is certified by the United States, so it's US standards, and the KN95 is Chinese standards. The problem is that up to 70% of KN95 masks in the US are fake. And so obviously, since it's coming from another country, it's easier for our country to regulate and figure out which is legit and which is not legit. And the CDC actually has a list on their website of all the real N95 masks. And it's just because it's so difficult to know if you're getting a fake KN95 mask from China, it's just way better to do N95. They're not in short supply. There's plenty available. Also, N95 do work slightly better than the KN95. If it's impossible to get N95, you can do KN95, but it's easier to make sure you're getting not a fake one. I also want to warn everybody, don't buy masks from Amazon. I'm sure that some of them are legit, but I was reading through the mask options and so many people were posting pictures and they're like, I have this exact mask from a different manufacturer and it looks completely different. So many Amazon reviews were accusing the masks of being fake versions of what it's claiming to be. So I do not recommend going on Amazon to buy N95 or KN95. I really recommend doing Project N95, which is where I got my masks at. It was a little expensive compared to Amazon, but I think Amazon's are fake. That's my guess. So I really recommend don't use Amazon. Remember, up to 70% of KN95 are fakes in the US. N95, CDC has a list of all the real legitimate N95 companies. And so, but beware they might be on Amazon, fake company. So yeah. Highly recommend N95 mask if you're waiting for yours to come in the mail or you can't afford them or you can't access them. The best thing to do is to wear a surgical mask, one of the blue throwaway ones, and then wear a cloth mask on top of it. That's really good. So number 1, N95, number 2, KN95, number 3, surgical mask, the paper ones, cloth mask on top. Wearing your cloth mask or your surgical mask alone isn't gonna help that much. Like, it's better than nothing, so you might as well wear it. But with Omicron, like, it's not gonna cut it. You really need an N95. And the great thing about N95 is that it actually protects you a ton. Before, you need both people to be wearing the mask to be like fully protected, but the N95 is so legit and strong and powerful that like if no one else is wearing a mask and you're inside next to people, you won't get COVID. So highly recommend N95. Make sure to get your brown paper bags, put the date on them, leave it in for 3 to 5 days. Just do the 5 days. If you live in a household with other people, put your names on the brown paper bags. But yeah, I wear my N95 mask everywhere, inside my apartment lobby, outside, at mass, in work, in businesses, public transport, everywhere. So clearly, we don't know 100% if COVID spreads outside. I don't want to get COVID. I would feel horrible if I passed it on to someone who was immunocompromised who died from it. And a lot of people are saying that if someone is sick or elderly or immunocompromised, just never go in public, order your groceries. The problem, and I can speak from personal experience since my mom has cancer and her chemo treatments and cancer make her immunocompromised, she would die from COVID. I know from that situation, my mom and my dad are married and my dad has to go to work in person. He asked his work if he could be virtual, telling them about my mom having cancer, and his work said, no, you can't be virtual. So my dad has to go to work in person and his work is not mandating masks or the vaccine. So my dad has to go to work in person and come home to my mom. And my mom has to go out to do doctor's appointments for her chemo. And my dad goes grocery shopping. So, you know, like even if my mom literally never leaves the house, but because you live in a household with someone who has a job who can't work virtually, you can't say, oh, just never go in public, because these people who are immunocompromised, elderly, sick, they don't live alone often. So anyways, highly recommend getting a good mask. If going to mass is really scary for you right now, wear your N95 or your surgical cloth. Don't receive Eucharist. Don't touch anyone. Don't touch anything. Stand far away from people. Don't talk to anyone. You can still safely go to mass. So hope that was helpful for you guys. It makes me really sad when people don't show up to mass, especially because we were without mass for months in 2020. It's just really sad to me when young people don't appreciate it. And we're dealing with, you know, kind of an epidemic with young people not coming to mass, not coming back to mass after mass opened up in 2020. So of course, I'll make so many more videos talking about the beauty of mass and how important it is to go every week. And for anyone who wants to become Catholic, newly Catholic on here, there's a big difference between missing mass accidentally and skipping mass. So if you accidentally sleep through mass, if you're in the hospital and are really sick and can't go to mass, it's not a mortal sin. For something to be a mortal sin, and I, in the past, have used the language, I never will anymore. My priest talked to me about this to change. So I don't think it's theologically correct to say about anything that's a mortal sin. Things are grave matter and could become a mortal sin, but the action on its own is not automatically a mortal sin unless someone has full knowledge of what they're doing. They know that it's a mortal, that it can become a mortal sin. Oh my goodness, my language needs to change. Number two, they are in complete free will. They're not under the influence of a substance. They're not, you know, like in a manic episode, a psychotic break, schizophrenia, bipolar. Even being in depression can affect your psyche and your motivation so much that can prevent something from being a mortal sin, and you have to intentionally do it. So for there to be a situation where someone doesn't show up to mass and it ends up being a mortal sin, it has to be a really serious thing where they're like, I hate God, I hate mass. The Catholic Church forcing us to do things is so awful and evil. I don't care what God mandated in the early church through the apostles. I don't need mass in my life. I hate mass. You know what I mean? Like, it has to be this very intentional thing where you're just like completely apathetic about God and absolutely hate it and you're intending to not go. If you accidentally sleep through mass, or you're sick, or you're in a severe depression episode and can't get out of bed, you know, like in that situation, it's not going to be a mortal sin. And when I say it's not going to be a mortal sin, I can't speak for God on whether or not it is. And I always recommend going to confession if you do something that's grave matter. I love going to confession. I absolutely love it. You know, I went today, and I hadn't gone in like 3 months, which is the longest I've ever gone without going to confession. And I had like 13 things to confess. It's like in the past 2 weeks, so many things have happened. I'm like, oh, what's going on? The priest was literally like, I think you have a demonic influence going on. Like, you really need to pray to St. Michael. But pray for St. Michael to pray for you. But anyways, I recommend going to confession if you do something that's grave matter. That's what I personally do. I'm not saying it's automatically a mortal sin, but you know what I mean? Like, we all have to go to confession. Like, I assume we should be going at least once a month. I try to go every like 6 weeks on average the past few months. I was doing really good at the end of 2021 with how I was living. But then like the past few weeks have been crazy. Past like 2 weeks. Anyways, so since you already have to go to confession to confess other things, why not confess it? You know what I mean? So yeah, that's my spiel on mass. I'm gonna go through some of your comments. I'm really excited to fully come back to YouTube. Thank you so much for the love on my past 2 videos. I had so much fun. I am so excited to upload my videos reacting to my YouTube channel through the years. I've been downloading my entire channel and watching a lot of videos through the years. Another video I'm gonna make with all the content that I've already started editing is reacting to my bipolar developing through the years, because I have over like almost 800 videos on YouTube, and I've been doing it since I was like 15. So I have videos where I'm talking about things happening. I'm like, oh, over the past 2 months, I was so sick. I was exhausted. I wasn't eating. I always woke up really tired. Like, I don't know what was going on with my energy. I'm going to go to the doctor. Like, I was talking about things like this, like 4 years before my bipolar, maybe not 4, maybe 3 years before my bipolar diagnosis. I was like talking about depression symptoms, and I didn't even know it was bipolar. And there was another situation like that, like months before I was first diagnosed with major depressive disorder, which I don't have. I have bipolar disorder. But before that happened, I made a video months before, and I was like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I've been so exhausted lately. And I was like, I'm going to the doctor. Like, I literally was like going to a physical doctor, and I'm like, what is wrong with me? You know, you think it's like adrenal fatigue or mono or something, or like you're deficient in some vitamin. So anyways, I have all these videos through the years, my bipolar coming out. And of course, then like it finally comes out, and I tell the story as it's happening. So I just think it'll be so cool to make a video reacting to all of that. And of course, it's really heartbreaking. I literally cry watching back my videos from the time, because it's like the end of college was the absolute worst time of my life mentally. And that will never happen again, except when I'm pregnant. I could be in a depression episode for 9 months, but it would be temporary. I know the moment the baby's born, I can go on meds. So it would be bearable, because I know what's going on, and I know that there's an end point, and I've been through it before. But yeah, so that's one of the videos. And I think I'm also gonna do one reacting to my favorite videos, and then reacting to my viral videos, and then like my top 10 most viewed. And then my favorite video I'm gonna make is reacting to top 10 videos I regret uploading, which most of them are not public on my channel anymore. I've also been going through my channel, and I've been privating a lot of videos. I've been editing videos that I removed from my channel because it had like one thing in it that I didn't want on YouTube, or like it has a heresy in it that I talked about that's really bad. And so YouTube has this new feature where you can actually go through old videos and edit the videos already on YouTube and remove certain parts of the videos. So I'm gonna make some videos public on my channel that haven't been public for a couple years, so that's really exciting. And I'm so excited to talk about the videos I regret making, because it's a new year, new reflection, and even videos I made in 2021 are gonna be included in the videos I regret making video. So I'm so excited to react to some of the content. Okay. Brooke says, hey Lizzie, do you think that God will deliver us from the pandemic? So God works through science. I think it is a huge enlightenment tragedy still going on in the US and other countries in the world, that we have this dichotomy between God and science. And we think if we pray for a miracle, or we pray for healing, or we pray for deliverance, it's just gonna be like this random spiritual immediate fix and change, rather than going through medicine and science and hospitals. And it's happens a lot with my bipolar disorder. I'm gonna make a TikTok about this soon that I've completely planned out that so many people are gonna get offended by. But I hear all the time, people are like, Liz, for your bipolar, have you prayed for healing? And I'm like, no, it's so offensive. I'll make a whole live stream on this too. Obviously, I pray about every aspect of my bipolar, but God heals me of my bipolar episodes and symptoms through my antipsychotic and mood stabilizer medication. It's working amazing. I'm doing great. I don't have negative bipolar symptoms at all. And it's the same exact thing with COVID. God is delivering us from COVID with the vaccine, with masking, with doctors and nurses working tirelessly in the hospitals to save lives of people who have COVID who could die. And so absolutely, God is currently delivering us from the pandemic through the vaccine, masks, doctors and nurses, and all the COVID treatments. And so we shouldn't just like turn our back on medicine. And this happens with so many things. It's so weird to me. Do people expect their relatives who get cancer to not do any medical treatments and just pray? If you look at things historically, it totally makes sense that God and science go together. During the Middle Ages, modern science was developing, academia was flourishing, and there were so many amazing Catholic scientists, many of them priests, who were making these huge developments in genetics and astronomy, what would become evolution. People like Mendel and Pascal, there were so many amazing people. This could be an entire video. Top 10 Catholic scientists in the Middle Ages who created modern science. But literally, there are so many Catholic scientists, and it's amazing that God created humans as this beautiful, amazing, intelligent creation, and through humans, the Holy Spirit has worked to create these amazing scientific treatments, surgeries, medications, vaccines, all of these things. Is the Holy Spirit working through people, even atheists? God lives in every single person. The Holy Spirit doesn't, but God, in a mysterious way, does live in every single person. We wouldn't be able to exist without God living in us. So yeah, God is delivering us from the pandemic through the vaccine, masks, doctors, nurses, and the hospitals. So you can either get on board with these medical treatments and go along with what I believe is God's plan, or you can keep praying for something not connected with science. So yeah, in Catholicism, it's never really been an issue where there's been, this conflict and confusion about it. I think that it's mostly Protestants in the US, and it's mainly just a United States issue where, there's a lot of Christians who don't believe in evolution and stuff. I think that's mostly a Protestant thing. There's definitely some fringe Catholics who don't believe in evolution, and I'm like, in the early 20th century, the Pope wrote a letter to everyone and it's like, believe in evolution doesn't conflict with our faith. So yeah, and look at what Catholicism does around the world. We're like the #1 nonprofit. We have built so many hospitals and schools to educate everyone. So Catholicism has never had a problem or a dichotomy between medication and God working. So yes, we should absolutely pray for God's healing and God's providence and God to work powerfully in the world. But a lot of the time when that's happening, it's through God working in people, which is honestly so beautiful that the way God works in the world is collaboration with his creation. Okay. You see me rolling. Hello, miss you. Don't expect this virus to go away anytime soon. It's likely to be around for decades and centuries like the flu. Yes, I was reading about this in 2020. People were saying it's never going to fully go away. But that just means that we're gonna have an annual COVID shot, just like how we get the flu shot every year. It's gonna be something similar to that. Maybe it'll be twice a year COVID shot for the rest of our lives. So yeah, it's always gonna be here. But when people say that, it makes it sound like we're gonna have the quarantine, masking, hospitals are overwhelmed for the rest of our lives into the future. And that's not the case. We're gonna get to a point where it's under control and our lives are gonna go back to normal and all of these people are not gonna be dying at record numbers. And so, yes, it will always exist, but not in the sense of like, you know, society is the way it is now where it's changing literally everything. So, yeah, it's going to continue, but it'll just be like the flu shot. So, and I was talking to my Instagram, so I'll say it now. Millions of Americans got the first dose of Pfizer or Moderna COVID vaccine, but not the second dose. So you do not have to get the first dose again. You just have to make an appointment for your second dose of Pfizer or Moderna. So go ahead. I'm philosophically opposed to Johnson & Johnson because of the way it uses aborted babies. So don't like Johnson & Johnson. I think Pfizer and Moderna are more ethical for Catholics. Also, J&J only lasts for 2 months, doesn't work very well, so go with Pfizer or Moderna. Brooke says we have to learn how to live with the virus. Lockdowns are harmful to mental health. Absolutely. What I found though, and I have, you know, bipolar, very severe mental illness, and I found that exercising and going on walks made like a huge difference. Because at the beginning, I never left my apartment. And eventually, I was going on walks every single day, going on runs. I ran with my mask. And because back in 2020, we 100% thought that COVID spread outside a lot. People, like the scientists were saying COVID stays in the air for 3 hours outside. So I was wearing my mask to go running in. And that helped so much, exercising and going on walks and stuff and getting my sleep cycle under control. I made a video at the time, tips for depression during pandemic. So I was able to get around it. And obviously we don't want people dying from suicide. I 100% agree with that, but I think there are workarounds. And it's really important to not look at mental health and then say it's okay for all of these people to be dying from COVID because of mental health. As someone with an extremely severe mental illness with a 10 to 20 year reduced lifespan, 1 in 4 death by suicide rate, I think I can say this without offending people that there are workarounds. Okay. Fatima Cruz, hello, says in Mexico, we have no choice in the vaccine. And for me, I got vaccinated with AstraZeneca. Yeah, it's really interesting how we have 3 choices here and then other countries only have 1. I think it's just because our country is so big, so we are able to do that. And I mean, I think it was really good decision that we were able to do 3 because Johnson & Johnson ended up not working as well. And so the fact that we had some fallbacks is like really, really important. Okay. No one says there is a mask that draws air around your head to warm it if it's cold. I feel like all masks help if it's cold though. Chaya says the US is hogging the vaccines. Here in Canada, we're just now getting the booster shots. Wow. Yeah, our country's very evil. I could make numerous live streams like I have with the US. Obviously, we have very beautiful, righteous, inspiring, amazing parts of our country, but we also have very evil parts of our country, and our government and military is a huge part of that. A lot of Americans do not support our military activity in so many situations, but I totally understand how we have a bad rep all around the world. I mean, I give myself, as an American, a bad rep for our country. So, yeah, it's really horrible how we're going about it, and our government has many issues. I think the biggest misconception that people might have about the US is that like we agree with what our government's doing, but they've done a lot of polls and like most Americans are in the middle on like the vast majority of issues and like disagree with both parties on the policies that they're enacting. So, I mean, I've talked to a lot of friends and stuff, and a lot of people think that we should just switch to like a direct democracy where like everyone votes on every bill. And I think it would completely change US policy. So, yeah, a lot of people hate what our government's doing. Like even Biden as a Democrat president, most people in my life voted for him and are identify as Democrat and absolutely hate what he's been doing. Obviously, there's some great things he's been doing, but in general, people think like he's basically a conservative, he's basically Republican, like he doesn't want to help the country very well. You know, he could forgive students the $15 minimum wage and just so many other ways to transform worker experience for employees around the world, for employees in the country, not around the world. So getting rid of a lot of the military budget, legalizing marijuana so we can help with veterans. Like there are just so many things that Biden isn't doing, and it's just like with a flick of his wrist, he could get rid of student loan debt. With a flick of his wrist, he could make marijuana legal so we could use it medically, all these things. So yeah, misconception about the US that we agree with our government. We really don't. And it's unfortunate that we can't have a third party system. A lot of the problem is we have like not as much regulation on capitalism as we should. And so these really rich corporations and rich CEOs pay our politicians for their re-election campaigns. And so they go based upon the money because they want to get reelected because it's their job, not according to like what the people want. So yeah, most people hate the government and hate both sides of the government, and we can't do anything about it. So horrible. Recently, they voted for the $15 minimum wage in Congress, and Democrats voted against it, why it didn't go through. And the Democrats who voted against it are millionaires, and it's just so evil that they're fine financially and they don't have empathy on other people. So yeah, hate it. I mean, I don't want a pure socialist country either. So obviously there needs to be a balance, but pure capitalism, evil. I think we need more regulations. Okay, these are so good. They are energy, like flaxseed energy bites, and the recipe is on the back of the Trader Joe's flaxseed, but you can find it online. So basically, it's 1 cup of oats, and it's no bake. So 1 cup of oats, half a cup of peanut butter, half a cup of chocolate chips, half a cup of flaxseed, a 1/4 cup maple syrup. What am I missing? So it's just oats, peanut butter, chocolate chips, flaxseed, maple syrup, peanut butter. So Yeah, and you just like mix it together with clean hands and then put it in the freezer for an hour, and they're little like energy bites. They're so good. They're a great snack, great dessert, so I make them a lot. And crunchy peanut butter makes it taste a lot better. I've had them with almond butter. Peanut butter is way better. I don't even like peanut butter, but use peanut butter instead of almond butter. Mark Tuma asks, what are your thoughts about Pope Francis letting Biden take the Eucharist? So actually, we say receive the Eucharist in Catholicism, even though he supports abortion. So I said this at the time I did a live stream talking about it. I was a little bit upset when Biden talked about his visit with Pope Francis, which was hours. They talked for hours. They talked way more than they had planned to talk. And after this hours conversation, Biden comes and he's like, yeah, Pope Francis said I'm a great practicing Catholic in good standing. And I was like, it was like an hours-long conversation. And he's getting like this one sentence of what happened. And you know what? Maybe Pope Francis even said those words directly. But when you take it out of the context of an hour's conversation, it can just completely change the meaning. And it's just honestly, like, it's so sad for me as a Catholic in the US. Something stuck in my throat, not COVID. It's really sad for me because anytime Pope Francis says anything, the media spins it and misinterprets it to be something completely different than what he means. And Biden did the same thing. And I mean, like, I love that we have the Pope as a spokesperson for our church. And I think it's really special how like the media want to report on the Pope, but it's almost like he shouldn't do interviews just because the media constantly spins what he said. And I mean, part of it is like a language thing because English is not his first language. Some of it is like he's speaking in Spanish and they're translating it wrong. So a lot of it is a language thing. I also think that just his communication style, and I know people like this, is a little bit like indirect when he talks, which I actually think is a good pastoral thing. Because like if my personality type was the Pope, it would be like not sweet. It would be like, this is how it is, you're wrong, this is heretical, you can't teach at a Catholic school. You know what I mean? Like if my personality type was the Pope, everyone would hate the Pope and it wouldn't be good for like world relations. And so I think it's good that Pope Francis is like indirect in the way he speaks, but it's very easy for the US media, Biden, to twist it. And I think part of it is like American culture. I mean, I don't think this happens with other countries in like misreporting what he meant, but our country tends to be more like black and white and concrete and like direct. Like our communication style in the US is like very direct, and like other countries are like, you know, really like put off by it. And so I think the cultural difference is really bad, and the media just like doesn't do a good job of reporting it. I mean, I think they need to get, you know, like practicing devout Catholics to be writing the articles on Pope Francis because they do a horrible job. So yeah, I mean, what Biden said about his and Pope Francis's conversation, I think if we read a transcript of the hour's conversation and then read what he said into it, it would probably tell an entirely different story. So when I heard that quote from Biden, everyone was like, oh, I hate what Pope Francis said. And I'm like, he didn't say it. He might have said it within an hours-long conversation, but it's like they do this with politics all the time. It happened during the 2020 election where like, you know, Trump was posting videos of like Biden, and then it's like you remove the part right after or the part right before, and it makes it say something completely different. And so, yeah, I wasn't annoyed at Pope Francis because I was like, he didn't say that. He might have said it, but that's not what he meant. So, okay. And I'm sure Pope Francis was very upset by it. That's what I think. Okay. Because Pope Francis has been very adamant about being pro-life and how evil abortion is. And so it's not like, oh, suddenly Pope Francis is fine with it. You know what I mean? Like, he's very outspoken about his thoughts on pro-life. Flaming says, I've had COVID for a week and it won't go away. Oh, I'm so sorry. 2 of my friends got COVID and it's really, really sad, all the symptoms. Not to be super negative, but I do know people who have long COVID who have had like COVID symptoms over months and months and months. Some people have symptoms for like up to a year. And so there is a situation where you can get long COVID and a lot of people don't talk about it and don't know about it. But that's why it's really important to get vaccinated, to get the booster, get your friends and family to get vaccinated, get your friends and family to get the booster, and get an N95 mask or a KN95 mask. And if you weren't here earlier, you're supposed to store your masks in like a lunch bag, like a brown paper bag for 5 days, and it gets rid of all the bacteria and toxins. So have 5 different masks or more and switch between them. Environmental ballerina. I was a ballerina too. I danced for 10 years growing up. Okay. I am considering becoming Catholic. Do you have any advice for me? I love you and your channel, by the way. Aw. So I know it's hard right now because of the pandemic, but Catholic community is so important and so amazing. Almost every single parish has events at their church, like a Bible study, young adult group, dinner. Like, so many parishes have like a weekly Bible study event, and I recommend getting involved. I don't know how old you are, but I'm 27. I became Catholic. I was like 22, 23 when I was converting. And a lot of people who are fresh out of college or younger are like, I have to have young adult community or I don't want to be part of like that church or that group. It's totally wrong. Once I hit like 22, I was like, I want to be friends with older adults. I absolutely love it. Like, there's people I'm friends with at my parish who are like 70, 40, 30, 60, you know what I mean? Like, you can be friends with anyone. I feel like I learned so much wisdom about life. I get an entirely different perspective than what I get from my friends. And so be willing to be friends with people at your parish who are not in your age group. I find that very helpful. And RCIA is a huge way to make friends. I absolutely loved it. Still go to RCIA. I know so many people who don't stop going to RCIA because of the community from it. So definitely get Catholic friends. Definitely do a lot of reading. I really recommend New Advent Catholic Encyclopedia. It's a website called New Advent. And on the website, it's like Wikipedia, but legit and Catholic. So they have articles on literally everything. Unfortunately, the search feature on the website is horrible. So just use Google and type in New Advent, Mary, New Advent, relics, New Advent, Nestorianism, New Advent, St. Athanasius, just anything you want to know about Catholicism, put New Advent on the topic and a New Advent article will come up. There are also biographies on like every saint ever. There's articles on every heresy ever, on every Catholic concept, on every Marian dogma, like literally everything. It's a free resource. It's amazing. They also have a ton of like early Christian writings for free on their website. They have Aquinas de Summa, which I absolutely love reading. That's another thing. You can also Google New Advent, Summa, any topic. Aquinas talks about everything in the Summa, and a lot of people are like, oh my goodness, Aquinas, he's so above me. I can't understand. Who am I to read his writings? Which is how I felt. I mean, everyone does. Like, you look at the Summa in a library, it's like this big. You're like, what? I can never read that. But the way the Summa is set up is like philosophy. It's like argument, argument, rebuttal to argument, response to argument. Like, instead of just being 10 paragraphs, it like lays everything out, and there's different paragraph and like bolding and stuff. And so it explains everything so well, and you learn so much. And Aquinas quotes all these people from like the early church and church fathers and stuff and popes. So amazing. I've learned so much. If you're researching a topic and you want to know like who else to read, going to the Summa and reading who Aquinas quotes, then you can go and read what they're saying. So love that. Flaming Amigos, when is your wedding? 2022! Woo woo! We're deep in wedding planning. So unfortunately, we're having a COVID wedding, which we are so bummed about. We were gonna get engaged earlier, and we waited to get engaged just because we didn't want to have a COVID wedding. We wanted like a normal wedding. We wanted to celebrate with all our friends and family. So we're really devastated by the situation, and my mom has cancer. So we are thinking about mandating the vaccine for like the bridesmaid, groomsmen and everything. So we are mandating the vaccine for like everyone who we're gonna like do hair and makeup with and photos and everything, just because like we have to hang out without masks for the wedding party, and like, you know, we have like the reception, dinner, all of these things. So basically for the people who are gonna like be in the wedding, we're gonna be vaccinated, and we're gonna do COVID tests before people fly when they get there. So we're gonna try to make it as safe as possible. Booster is what I mean by vaccine, because everyone is already vaccinated. Not everyone, but like people I know. So yeah, we have to do that. And we're seeing whether or not we're gonna have the vaccine mandated for people at the reception. Oh, it's so hard to know what to do, because you don't want to like say you can't come to my wedding, but then it's like we don't want COVID spreading to everyone. So yeah, it's a huge predicament right now. It's really hard to know what to do. So yeah, I know a lot of people had COVID weddings, and the thing about Catholicism is the wedding has to be indoors for the ceremony. And so obviously outdoors is a lot safer, but our wedding venue, we're having the reception inside. I guess we could try to figure out an alternative, but yeah, that's where we're at right now. So we're really struggling with that decision, but luckily people understand my mom's situation. We already have had some people in the wedding party drop out because of COVID, like bridesmaid, groomsmen. So really sad, heartbreaking, not how I expected my wedding to go, but it'll be okay. We'll get married. It's a sacrament. All that matters is that our family and close friends are there. So might look a little different than what we planned, but it'll be a cool story to tell our children. Mark Toma says, what is your favorite Catholic theology book? It is called Church History by Eusebius. He's an early church historian who writes about the first few centuries of Christianity. He quotes a ton of works. Some of the works we don't have copies of anymore, so we're able to access so many things. Love it. I cried so much reading that book. I laughed, I cried. You just get like emotionally attached to like the early Christians, and then they get like die of persecution, and it's like, oh, yeah. It's a very intense read. You fall in love with people in the early church though. Okay. Environmental ballerina. Thank you for noticing me. I'm 18. I've watched you since I was 17. Thank you so much for your advice, Lizzie. You are so nice. Also, I assume you're already doing it. Don't know. But you should call your local church. Just Google Catholic Church near me. And there should be a website and a phone number. So call the number. It'll be either be the priest or like the parish secretary. And they can give you information on RCIA, which I'm sure you know. So the class starts in the fall, and then you could get confirmed in the spring if you're ready and open. So my RCIA and a lot of them I know run year round. And so you can join at any point. You'll just have to wait until like the next spring. So if you start right now, you can do like a year and a half of RCIA, which would be so cool. RCIA in the 2nd century was like 3 years in some places, so it's always good to be there for longer. Okay. Joshua said, at my confirmation, only my parents, sister, and confirmation sponsor showed up. Was it during COVID? Because confirmation happens during Easter Mass, and so like everyone is there. Easter Vigil, so there's like less people than Easter, but yeah, lots of people should be there. Mark Toma, where women in the early church played an important role. Absolutely. You can literally see this in the Bible. It talks about so many women who were missionaries, leaders, teachers in the church. When I say leaders, I do not mean priests or bishops. Women were never priests or bishops, but they were serving in as teachers, missionaries, roles like that, prophets. So prophets is the wrong word. They were like prophesying. So yes, that continued. I don't want to be controversial, so this is not at all deacons, but there was a role similar to like deacons that wasn't, like authoritative in that way, not like sacrament or anything, but there were kind of like female deacons in the early church who helped out. Obviously, they're not like the male deacon, they're different, but yeah. So women were a huge part of the early church, and in the Eucharistic, like Roman canon prayer, it mentions a lot of women. So, okay. Mark says, I was confirmed as a baby because I am Maronite Catholic. Yeah, it's so sweet. In the Eastern Catholic churches, they do baptism, Eucharist, confirmation as the same sacrament, which was the way it was for a long time. So if some Catholics from long ago were to come back, they'd be a little confused by what's going on. Faye Gomez, thank you so much for the donation. Hi, Lizzie. Can Catholics practice yoga thoughts? Okay. So, the topic of yoga, I have literally felt crazy about this topic because I've been to so many yoga classes, the vast majority with Christians teaching the yoga class. And so doing yoga since like high school and doing like, YouTube yoga workouts and stuff, it's literally stretching. I mean, it's a hard workout though. It's not just stretching. It's like strength training and stuff. But it's just like if you would go to like spin class, right? Like what is it? It's a workout class. So the reason I feel crazy is because there are so many Christians, Protestants and Catholics, maybe Orthodox, who are like, yoga is of the devil. It's diabolical. It's a sin. It's letting evil spirits into your mind. People are just like, very, very vehemently hate yoga. And my thing is always like, you probably have never been to a yoga class before. Like, I think a lot of these people have never actually done yoga. And I totally get it might be like cultural appropriation the way we do yoga in this country, because it originally is coming from, like Eastern religion and stuff, and like not from the US originally. So what I always say is I'm like, okay, your definition of yoga is a totally different definition than my definition of yoga. And yeah, we're not doing another religion. Like, this isn't a religious experience at all. And like, I totally get like some yoga, it is religious, but not like fitness class yoga. So, and yeah, literally, that's what I think the funniest thing is. So like, I went to a Christian university Protestant school, and we had like, fitness classes, And so pretty much like everyone was Christian who worked at our school and stuff. So we literally had like Christian yoga where they would like have Christian music and then like read Bible verses that we would meditate on as we were doing yoga. So when people are like yoga is anti-Christian, I'm like, we were doing yoga with Christian music, meditating on Bible verses. Like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? So that's my experience with yoga. I've done yoga. I don't think it's diabolical. And the one thing people say is like the positions are of the devil. Like the yoga stretching positions. And I'm like, what? And that doesn't make sense because like I do those positions to stretch. Like they're good stretches. So, what? My best friend is on here. Thank you for the donation. Okay. Mark Tuma says Christian yoga sounds pretty cool. Yeah, it was really fun. It's really cool to meditate because like all the yoga I've done is like just like exercise, not religious at all. So it's kind of like, you know, you're in a lot of pain. But I actually found it very helpful to be meditating on the Bible verses during the yoga because it helps you like forget how much pain you're in. That was one of the things I absolutely loved about doing like Father Mike Schmidt's Bible in a year. Obviously, I loved reading the Bible and like getting closer to God and stuff, but I would be listening to the podcast while I was working out. And during my ab routine, there's this like 10-minute ab workout video I do and it like burns sometimes, you know? So I would be listening to the Bible podcast as I'm doing it and I forgot the pain. Like I was doing it just as intense of a workout as I usually do, except I wasn't thinking about the workout, I was thinking about the Bible. And so you don't feel it as much. Usually I do workout with music, but for some reason podcast, it doesn't hurt as much. Okay. You see me rolling. Here's Merriam-Webster's yoga definition. A Hindu theistic philosophy teaching the suppression of all activity of body, mind, and will in order that self may realize its distinction from them and attain liberation. So this is what I love about philosophy. You always start with definitions. And so that definition of yoga is completely different than what I'm talking about, which is a workout class. So, but people say, this is what people say. They're like, the workout class is yoga. Like you cannot have yoga apart from this definition, which is wrong. Go do yoga class. Okay. Okay. Daniel Smith, Lizzie, I've been trying to get in touch with you again for a while. Can you remember to check your emails and DMs for something from me? Pretty please. Oh, it's so hard to check DMs. I get so many messages from them, so it's really hard to respond. But I've completely reorganized my life. Why does this keep moving? I've completely reorganized my life. So I have this app on my phone that gives notifications all throughout the day of what I need to be working on. And one of them is reply to Instagram DMs. So every day I have like a 15-minute window where I reply to Instagram DMs. It's very fun. The problem with, I mean, it's not a problem, it's a beautiful thing, but my DMs, and I don't think most influencers are like this, I could be wrong, but I get like paragraphs. People write like this much in the DM because they're like sharing their story with me and want to hear like my response and my advice. And a lot of it is bipolar disorder. So people are like telling me their life story and all their symptoms. They're like, do you think I'm bipolar? Or like they're dating someone who's bipolar, like married, and they just broke up with them and like they think they're bipolar. Like how can I get them to comply with treatment and go on medication? You know what I mean? Like stories. And so I can't just like in 15 minutes respond to 20 people because I need to respond. I need to write like paragraphs back to people. So, I mean, I think that's really beautiful though. Instead of just saying, I love you so much, actually like getting to know their story and interacting with it and really sharing heart to heart. So I think maybe that is more meaningful, but that's why I can't get to as many people, which is really sad. So also, what actually is pretty cool is the new stories thing. I mean, it's been around for a few months, but you can respond with like an emoji to what they're saying rather than like typing out a response. So in my DMs, all these emojis show up, like so-and-so sent a heart or a laughing emoji to your story. They show up. And then I'm able to see, like, for the past 4 years, everything they've ever sent me. A lot of it is like reacting to the story, and other things are like messages from 4 years ago. So it's pretty cool being able to like suddenly, because of the emojis on the story, I'm able to like look back through all of our communication, which is super sweet. You see me rolling. If you're not doing anything spiritual, stop calling it yoga. It's literally a byproduct of Hinduism. So here's the thing about language. There are words that have multiple meanings all over our language. One example in academia, so the word libertarianism, it's a philosophy word as a free will theory. It's called libertarianism. And then it's also like an economic term. And so when you say to a philosopher, stop using the word libertarianism if you're not talking about economics. Like, would you say that to a philosophy scholar? No, that's super rude. Words are allowed to have two different meanings. That's just how language works. And so yeah, you can't like monopolize a word because words have multiple meanings. Okay. Vince, hi, the legend has arrived. Okay. JC, what kind of things have you tried to get your family to eventually become Catholic? Do you try to plant seeds with your words and actions, send them resources, or do you just pray about it? So I'm a firm believer that things happen gradually and that every single moment of your life should be evangelism and subliminally hyping up the truth of your faith. So I think the most important thing to do is pray and make sure my phone keeps moving. What the heck? I think because I touch it and then it like moves to the side. Anyways, oh, because it's connected to my charger over here, that's why. Anyways, okay, so prayer is the most important thing, and I think prayer directly affects your actions. So I think when you're praying about something, you'll have specific conversations or you'll act in a certain way. And I was actually praying after Mass today for a while for like everyone in my life. And I was just like thanking God for me converting and all of these friends from college who have become Catholic and Trevor converted into Catholicism. Like, it's such a miracle that I'm Catholic. Like, I'm the least likely Catholic. I'm constantly shocked that I was able to convert into Catholicism. And so you just really have to be grateful for the miracles that have already happened, and things are going to take a long time. And for me, looking back in my life, it's like if someone had seen it from the outside, they're like, okay, Liz would never become Catholic. Nothing in Liz is becoming Catholic. But then like once I saw that it was true in like early 2017, I looked back on my life and I had all these like little nudges and moments of intellectual change that had been happening all along, but like I couldn't see it until I had done all this research into the early church and read the church father writings. I didn't connect everything as leading one way. And so I think it's the same for anyone converting, where, you know, from the outside, there might be no baby steps at all, but in like 5 years, they'll look back and connect all of these things to their conversion. So that's how it is. And honestly, veganism has helped me a lot with evangelism, just because everyone in my life, I obviously want to be vegan, and a lot of people have completely changed their diets because of my influence on them. And it's something that you really can't force. And I think everyone always asks like, oh, why are you vegan? And you have like 20 seconds to explain, but people are not willing to like go watch a 3-hour documentary. They're not like, what books can you recommend on animal liberation? You know what I mean? Like, people aren't interested and they don't want to watch it. And it's the same thing with Catholicism. When you tell people why you're Catholic, 20 seconds, you know, if it's a best friend, maybe an hour, you know, you have conversations throughout your life and stuff throughout the months and years, whatever. But people aren't willing to like sit down and watch a 3-hour movie or like read a 400-page book. You know what I mean? Like people don't want to. But I think over time, people get curious, they notice things, they see how your life changes, and it might become more attractive to them. So, like my dad is vegetarian now. He was like last Christmas. He's been like gradually changing. My best friend just became vegan. And so, you know, like I became vegan in 2015. It's been like over 5, almost 7 years. And so things take a long time. But I mean, all along the way, a lot of my friends have changed like little things about how they've eaten. So change is gradual. Okay. You see me rolling. This new meaning is derived out of Western ignorance of a demonic practice, and that reasoning just allows the door to be open to change the definition of anyone we want. But the thing is, it wasn't like one person was suddenly like, let's have a definition of yoga. These things gradually develop. That's just how language is. If you study linguistics, you can see in so many different countries, nations, over thousands of years, language just changes and develops, and we kind of just have to put up with the changes to deal with culture. So I'm gonna eat another one of my energy bites. Okay. Fatima, are your parents going to attend Mass on your wedding day? Yes. We're having a full Mass, and we asked everyone who's going to be in the wedding, like bridesmaid, groomsmen, and family. We were like, I totally understand, like if you're not Catholic, you might be uncomfortable attending like a Catholic Mass for a wedding. So no pressure to show up. If you're uncomfortable and it goes against your conscience coming to my Catholic wedding, you don't have to come, no hard feelings. So I talked to everyone about that, and I wasn't going to get offended if people didn't come, just because I love when people have religious convictions. And so if they think that Catholicism is false, it's a lie, it's harmful, it's heretical, and they don't want to come to my wedding because of that, I love that. I respect that. A lot of people think we should have this like tolerance and be okay with everything. And I think that can turn into relativism, which is not okay. Obviously, I'm extremely grateful. All my friends who have been to Mass with me and are wanting to support me in my religion, and I think that's totally fine and beautiful. And I love having that encouragement. But on the other side, if someone does have a strong conviction against it, I'm not going to be mad if they don't come. So that goes with wedding guests too. So of course, we're going to tell everyone. But yes, bridesmaid, groomsmen, family, down with Catholic wedding. Okay. Mark Tuma says, are you going to make more debates? Because I really like them. What does that mean? Do you mean having like other people on my YouTube channel? I don't consider that a debate though. Like the discussions I've had with other YouTubers have definitely not been debates. Like you don't know me at all if you think that's a debate. Okay. Mark, do you receive Eucharist during a wedding in Mass? Yes, you can. I don't know what we're going to do. So what I would like, I don't know if this is allowed. So if you're getting married as Catholic later, don't listen. I mean, you can listen, but don't think this is like truth. But what I would like, which I don't think is allowed, is for Trevor and I, my fiance and I, to receive the Eucharist and no one else, because it'll be super awkward if people are coming up to receive the Eucharist and like a lot of people can't. And this is what it'll be like. So there's someone who's sitting in the pew on the left side next to the aisle in the center. And then there's someone over here who's Catholic. So these 5 people have to stand up and walk over here and let them get out and then get back. And then when this person comes back, the person over here has to get up. It's just like everyone will feel uncomfortable with it. I will feel uncomfortable. we'll have to have something in the bulletin explaining why people can't receive the Eucharist who aren't Catholic. I'm sure people will sort of understand. Some people will get offended by it. So I just like want to avoid that completely because it's awkward and uncomfortable. So we'll see what happens. Vince says, Lizzie, how are you? I'm getting a gaming PC and something really great might happen in the future. I'll let you figure it or DM later on Instagram. Okay. Gabby says, Lizzie, I'm kind of scared to share my faith with my friends. What's your advice? So I personally never try to like convert people. I have with one of my guy friends actually. I don't know if that would count. Anyways, rarely have I tried to like convert someone. I think if I was dating a Protestant or an atheist, I would definitely try to convert him. But most people don't want to have that kind of debate, and it will actually push them away. So yeah, I think the best way to work on like getting people to be your religion or your political belief or vegan or whatever is important to you is just by like making it look beautiful through your life. And when you share about your faith, you don't have to be like, this is why I believe the Eucharist is one of the original sacraments in Christianity. It was talked about in John 6 because of the Greek etymology of this. You don't have to start the conversation like that. You can say, I was at Mass today and the priest said this in the homily and it was really, really beautiful. And then I was so excited to receive Eucharist because I didn't for a couple weeks because of this. And you know what I mean? Like, don't talk about like why this is true. Talk about your personal experience. And it's something that you shouldn't have to try to do. It should come out naturally with your friends. Like, I talk to my friends about every part of my life. I talk to my friends like, how is work going? How's my fiance? How are my parents doing? What have I been cooking recently? You know, I'll ask my family, like, how's the cat doing? I'll ask my friends that. How's your health problem going? You know what I mean? Like, you just talk about things with people. And so you're going to talk about your faith because it's, like, a huge part of your life. And so, like, you're going to naturally talk about Catholicism if you participate in Catholicism. You know what I mean? Like, I go to Mass every week. I'm at confession regularly, daily Mass, adoration, parish Bible study. I'm a campus minister for Catholics, Catholic YouTube channel. So like a majority of my life is Catholic, and in just talking about my life, I'm talking about Catholicism. So it's not something that you have to like try to convert your friends. You should just like be yourself. And it's been like this my whole life. I made a video about this like in high school. Like in high school, when you're friends with people, they're like, oh, what did you do this weekend? Oh, my church had a youth rally. Oh, what did you do in June over the summer? Oh, I went to Bible camp. We did this. You know what I mean? Like if you're doing something in your life with your time, you're going to talk about it. And it's not like, oh, I'm trying to convert her. It's like, I'm literally talking about what I did on Thursday. You know what I mean? So it shouldn't be like trying to convert people. And people don't like being controlled, so it probably wouldn't work. Okay. James says, howdy from the great state of Texas. Okay. Daniel Alejandra Shaman Handal says, in Nicaragua, we have communion during weddings. Yes, here we do too, but we kind of have a choice if we receive Eucharist or not. So we'll see. And Danielle is emailing or DMing you better. Definitely DMing. I do have a subscriber email, LizziesAnswers@gmail.com. But my LizziesAnswers email is business, and so, like, keeping that separated. Okay. Flaming Amigos says, the Conservatives and Prime Minister in the UK have not only lied and handled COVID really badly, but they had over 10 parties in Downing Street breaking restrictions on the law during the pandemic. Aren't people awful hypocrites? The same thing happened in California. They literally had an election to get rid of the governor because he was partying. I don't think he was partying, but he was like, you know, in a restaurant without a mask during COVID. So that's horrible. I think when voting for public officials, generally, I don't really care that much about their personal life. I care about how they're going to vote. Obviously, you don't want a criminal, you know, being in a leadership position, but like in general, like I don't care that much about their personal life. But yeah, it gets to a point where like if you're publicly going like directly against a policy that's like life-threatening, not okay. So I think what's so weird to me is why like public figures like don't think they're gonna get caught. You know what I mean? Like everyone has a phone. We take videos and pictures of everything. We have a media. The internet talks about everything. People love gossip. Stuff like this will go viral. Like I just don't understand how people are so stupid that they don't think they're gonna get caught. Isn't it weird? Like I'm nervous when I'm on an airplane and I have a disagreement with the flight attendant that it's gonna become a viral video on YouTube. You know what I mean? Like everyone should always be scared that they're gonna become a news story because of the internet and phones. And so I don't understand how like actual like famous politicians don't think about these things. So weird. Okay. Mark says, Lizzie, is it wrong if I attend an Orthodox Mass as a Catholic, but I don't take communion? Okay, so two problems with this. Number one, it's not take communion, it's receive communion. Big difference. Number two, it's not called Mass, it's called divine liturgy. And so you could say like liturgy for short, but when I'm dealing with like another group religion, I generally am like, want to use proper terms to not offend people, so I would say divine liturgy. So yes, totally fine to attend. I've been to many Orthodox divine liturgies. I love divine liturgy. I visit, you know, there are like brothers and sisters in Christ who are so similar to us, most heartbreaking thing ever that we're divided. So absolutely we can go, but we cannot receive the Eucharist. It's not allowed. It's not allowed for Catholics. Like as Catholics, it's not okay. And the Orthodox Church also does not want you receiving their Eucharist. So it's double not okay. But you can definitely attend. And I actually encourage all Catholics to go to divine liturgy. I think it's an amazing experience. I think it's good to experience other religions in general. Obviously Orthodox, we're all Christians and everything, but it's really beautiful seeing the eastern part of the church. And also you should check out Byzantine, Maronite Catholicism. There are Eastern Catholic churches that are united with Rome that have the same liturgy. So St. John Chrysostom from the early church created the Orthodox Divine Liturgy, which is also Eastern Catholics. It goes back like over 1,000 years. Chrysostom is on my saint squad. I have him pray for me a lot. He's one of my favorite Christians ever. So his liturgy is amazing. Okay. Michelle says, hello, Lizzie. Hi. Vince, thank you so much for the donation. Lizzie, I forgot. Can you keep my family in your prayers? Absolutely. Okay, what is going on? This needs to be removed. I'm about to Heather, like, okay, weird. Mark says, sorry, I don't speak English as the first language. That's why I make mistakes when writing. No worries at all. So it's actually been interesting as a YouTuber. So I've been doing this since I was 15, over a decade, and I used to respond to every single message before I got more viewers. So like in high school, I would respond to every single message. And it was so interesting because anytime someone was like, I'm sorry for my English, it was better grammar than Americans. Like, I'm not kidding. People who do not speak English first language know English better, like grammatically and everything, than native English speakers. Our schools are just horrible. I mean, this is a real thing though. So I took Koine Greek in college, and the reason it was so hard is because I was learning grammar for the first time. We just like, I think because you grow up speaking it, you don't have to like learn all the grammatical components of it because you can just speak and you can just write, and you're not like analyzing like past perfect tense like that. You're not like parsing out verbs and everything. Whereas if you're learning a language, you have to know all the grammatical options. And so my fiance, Trevor, had to learn like a ton of languages. He is getting his PhD in theology. So he had to learn like Hebrew, Greek, Aramaic, Syriac, like all of these, you know, like ancient, biblical, you know what I mean? And he said it's gotten easier and easier to learn languages because once you learn like the foundational grammatical things, a lot of it carries over into other languages. And so initially learning all of that is very, very difficult because we're not taught it in school. And I don't know how other countries are. Maybe they're the same way as us, where you don't learn like the grammatical background of everything. And I don't know. I don't know if this is like a new thing in US education, if it used to be better, maybe it's getting better. I don't know. My schools growing up were generally really good though. I thought they were fine. I guess maybe the grammar was so bad. One of the dumbest things we learned in school was cursive. Literally, like, my 5th grade teacher was like, guys, in middle school, you're gonna have to write cursive in every class. You need to get better at cursive. And then we got to middle school and like never used cursive ever again. Besides like signing your name when checking out at the grocery store. And with the internet, you don't even really sign forms anymore. You just do online signature, and then you can choose which cursive font to put on the form. But you're literally not even knowing cursive, so waste of time. I wonder if Gen Z did that. Gabby says, Lizzie, I want to thank you for your amazing videos because I used to be a Protestant and I was very anti-Catholic. I was baptized as a child and I want coming back, but my mom won't take me to mass. That's really, really sad. I would contact the priest at the Catholic church near you and be like, hey, I really want to go to mass every week. Can I have a ride to church? And I think they could hook you up with a ride. So definitely ask, pray about it. I'm sure someone would be so excited to pick you up. You're so good. Okay. You see me rolling? Your comment further up about sniffing hair, I 100% agree with you. And I have no clue why that wasn't like automatic, like voted out for the primary, you know? Because like so many other, there were like 15 other people seriously running. It was so many people. So why do we have to end up with that? It's just really not okay. Like, it's not okay to treat women like that. So I don't understand why that wasn't, why did everyone let it go? And there were like so many videos of it. It wasn't a one-time thing. I was horrified. So, can't believe that flew by. Aww. Heather says, okay, I have to get a quick shower and then fill up the tub for power outages from winter storm in the morning. Pray for our region that outages won't be too long. Where do you live? How do you know ahead of time the power will go out? David says, Lizzie, my mother and I enjoy watching your videos. It brings us together and I want to thank you. She says hello. Aww. That's what I think about sometimes. So like, every YouTuber has a certain amount of views on their video, but a lot of people watch YouTube with their friends, so it's even more people. Also, I learned recently that if someone doesn't watch the video for more than 30 seconds, it doesn't count as a view. Isn't that interesting? So there's actually way more people clicking on your videos. Heather says North Carolina near the mountains. Interesting. Mark Tuma says, is it a mortal sin if I can't go to mass every week or confession because of my parents? Absolutely not. It's not a mortal sin. It is a mortal sin if you like intentionally don't show up to mass. Because you're like, I hate God. I hate mass. I hate these rules. I don't need to go to mass. I hate obeying rules. You know what I mean? If you physically can't go. But I recommend praying a lot about it and trying to find a solution, like someone at the church picking you up. So I highly recommend you to email the priest, call the parish secretary, email the parish secretary, and figure out a ride situation. I'm pretty sure you could figure it out. Like if you don't have public transportation where you live, I think someone would be willing to drive you. Okay. Rita says, greetings from Misiones, Argentina. Okay. Bruno Possum says, thanks for your channel. I grew up Catholic, then became Protestant. Now I'm returning to the Catholic Church. Woo woo. Oh, I lost it. Okay. Your channel definitely helped me to make the decision to go back. Oh, that's so exciting. Yeah, it's so cool because obviously a lot of the people who watch my videos become Catholic, but I didn't know this would happen. A lot of the people who find my channel are people who grew up Catholic and then left the church because they didn't know what the church taught to begin with. And then they find my videos and learn what the Catholic Church actually is teaching and are like, I want to be part of that. That's true. So I never would have imagined that it would be all these people who grew up Catholic who are now coming back home. Okay. Vince says, hey Lizzie, I'm going to bed. Good night. Have a good stream. Bye. Good night. We have another 20 minutes on here. 23 minutes. Guys, so my nail is breaking and I have really long nails, right? Like this is, yeah, they're really long. Oh, I'm not wearing my engagement ring. Let me get my engagement ring. Whenever I clean or cook, I don't wear it. And I always put it in like a very specific place so I don't lose it. So I never have it like laying around and can see it. Anyways, so my nails are really, really long. Ah! Oh my goodness, it looks so bad. Anyways, so I always end up knocking my nails on something and they break. And so, you know, you have to get them redone every month anyways. So by the time I get to the salon, usually like 2 or 3 are broken. So usually when they break, it's like up here or there. This one is breaking. I don't know if you guys can see, but it's like in the middle of my nail. And I want to tear it off because it keeps getting like hit because it's like hanging off. And I tried to tear it off, but it's like too painful. Like I can't do it to myself. So it might be, it's like attached to like part of my skin. Oh my goodness. And now I have to wait to get my nails done because they won't put my nail over like a bleeding thing. So this is so sad. Oh my goodness. You guys see it? Oh, it hurts so much. Okay. More people going to sleep. What time is it where you guys live? It's still early here. Alma says, hello Lizzie, I'm from Mexico. I love your videos. I really want to see Our Lady of Guadalupe so bad. I'm definitely gonna go do a Mexico trip. I've been to Cabo. I'll probably go again for beach vacation at some point, but I really want to see Our Lady of Guadalupe. I'll definitely cry. Okay. Gabby says, if I can't go to mass because of my mom, can I watch online mass? Absolutely. I highly recommend watching online mass. It's amazing that the pandemic has offered it to so many people. And in a lot of situations, if someone is like really sick or disabled and they're not able to go to mass, being able to experience mass virtually has been an amazing experience, but it does not replace mass. It's really important to physically go in person. Oh my goodness, I want to tear my nail off, but it's gonna hurt so much. I really should have just gotten my nails done because they're growing out. I wish that had happened. Oh, it's in so much pain. Okay. Scary nails. Yes. So I got almond for the first time rather than square. And they did like talon. Like they made it really sharp rather than like circle, but I like it. Mark says you were going to the Vatican for your honeymoon. Yes, although we might postpone it because of COVID, because it'll be really sad if we get there and can't really do anything. So we'll see what's gonna happen. We might just like do a local trip and then do that like in 2023 or 2025, whenever COVID stops. But if I wear my wedding dress, we get to meet the Pope 100%, which is so exciting. I'll cry for sure. Okay. Elizabeth says almond nails are the best shape. I always love square, but almond is really cool. Environmental ballerina. What is your favorite Bible verse, Lizzie? That's a really good question. I hadn't thought about that for a while. I feel like growing up, every year I was like, this is my new favorite Bible verse. This is my new favorite Bible verse. I would say I really love John 14 to John 17. I just think all of that part of the Bible is absolutely beautiful. It's what Jesus is speaking to his disciples right before he dies. I think it's very beautiful. I really love how in John 17, I believe, Jesus is praying for his apostles, for the future church, and he says he's praying for their unity, and he says, I pray for them to be one as I am one with the Father. Just unity in the church, and it's like Jesus yearns for the unity in Christianity so much. And starting with, the split of the Oriental Orthodox churches after this, and then the Great Schism with Orthodox, and then the Protestant Reformation, which has created thousands of splitters. It's just like, it's really sad how heartbreaking all of it is. And Jesus wants us to ultimately be united in a physical unity, not just the spiritual essence of like, oh, I can be friends with other types of Christians, but he wants a physical, real unity. And it's really sad that as humans, imperfect humans, we have so broken away from that. Okay. Danielle Smith says, my journey to Catholicism and extreme mental health battle intersected during 2020 and 2021, right after I finished undergrad. I was such a mess mentally and found your channel over 2 years ago. Oh, I'm so happy my videos were able to be comforting for you. It's so interesting how it was the same way for me. Like if I wasn't bipolar, I would not have become Catholic, which is so crazy because it's like you look back on the darkest part of your life and you're like, however could something good come out of that, you know? Because it's just like you look at it like severe depression and all of the aspects of bipolar coming out, it feels like pure evil. Like it's not how the world is supposed to be. It's not how you're supposed to be, but it's original sin. It's there. And so if I hadn't been like so broken down in depression, I wouldn't have been open to changing my mind on so many things and like being wrong. But depression like broke me down all the way and made me so weak, but like malleable. And I would never have gotten to that point without depression, because I think I'm just such a prideful person, and that it just like broke me down. And then when I was researching into Catholicism, I was off meds, which should never have happened. I hate that I was off meds, but it's like God used such a dangerous, horrible time of being off meds where I was like so brave and courageous and impulsive. And I don't think I would have been courageous enough to be willing to research in and be wrong on so many things if I wasn't manic. Like it wouldn't have happened. So God literally used the worst part of my life to lead me to become Catholic. And it shouldn't be surprising because God takes Jesus himself dying on the cross, being tortured to save the world and bring about forgiveness. And so if God can redeem the cross, he can redeem all of our sickness and brokenness and all the evil and suffering that we experience. And I really hate it because so many people say everything happens for a reason, or like this is God's will. And it's really not God's will. God has an active will and a permissive will. And so yes, he allows evil things to happen. It's his permissive will. But a lot of people, when they say God's will, they're acting like God's active will. And no, God does not will evil to happen in that way. Mental illness is evil, and it's not in his plan for that to happen, but he uses suffering and evil to pull us closer to him, which is incredible that he can use things that evil to do it. And for me, too prideful for it to not be severe depression. So it's cool how everything ended up. And when I was watching through my whole YouTube channel, obviously not watching everything, but watching videos here and there, when I was doing like my videos I made in high school, beginning of college, I was like honestly so sad because it's like in a few years, like this girl who's so happy and free and joyful and fun is gonna go through like such a horrible experience. And it's so good we can't see the future, because it would have just like ruined those years knowing what would ultimately happen to me. And yeah, it's just like heartbreaking. And then those videos I made as my bipolar was coming out, it's like I cry anytime I watch them, because it's like I think of my younger self in so much pain, and I want to like go back in time and hug her and like try to offer encouragement. But yeah, so sad how it happened. I feel like things with trauma, you never fully heal from it. It always can come back and haunt you and hurt you. And I think it's fine for things to be like that. Okay, we have 10 more minutes left. I'll talk about what I talked about in confession today, which people are like, you shouldn't do. So I'm not gonna literally read everything on my list, but I did talk about how I realized over the past few weeks that my vulnerability with God has been so off for so long. And I have just been doing more petitionary prayer lately. And there's like this one thing going on, and I was like trying to fix it and work on it and fix it and work on it. And you know, one day I prayed about it and it was like fixed. And obviously not permanently, but like immediately I saw something coming out of it. And I was like, wow, why did I not think to pray about this earlier? And I'm thinking back and I'm like, when I was in severe depression in college, I felt like God had abandoned me. And I did not feel his presence for over a year. And within my Protestant theology, that feeling of God's presence was a way that he loved me and proof that he was there for me. And I've always been a very analytical person, so obviously I don't like believe God exists by that feeling. But there was this conviction that that was like clearly a part of my relationship with God. And so when you go from feeling everything in a manic episode to feeling nothing, I felt like extremely wounded by God, much deeper than any word could express. And when I was becoming Catholic, in some ways, it was very comforting because Catholicism relies less on emotion than Protestantism does. It's so intellectually robust, and of course, there's so much emotion in Catholicism. There's so many aspects of Catholicism. You can find something for everyone. But with my personality type being so analytical, I really dove into the intellectual aspect of it. And I think that I was able to make my life and my YouTube and my faith very much based on like proofs and logic and truth. And so I've been realizing lately that I never really like fully got past the way my relationship with God was affected when I was in depression. And I thought I was over it, but I think that with any type of healing, it comes in waves. And you can be okay for a few weeks and then it comes back, and then you're okay for a few months and then it comes back. And I think with this, it's like I might be okay for a year and then it comes back. And so I just was like really analyzing my life and just thinking like, wow, I'm not vulnerable with God in the way I used to be before my bipolar diagnosis. And I'm so scared to be vulnerable with God in that way. And obviously there's not an easy fix to that, but it's really cool being aware of it. And I'm very interested to see how I will change. I was crying so much at Mass today, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. Obviously, the first step in healing is acknowledging emotions, understanding where you're at with things. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully, I'm able to trust God more, and that'll make every other part of my life more vulnerable. So we'll see what happens. I think I've also been going through a lot lately in my personal life. I haven't really talked about it that much, but my mom has cancer. So that's been all of 2021 was her going through chemo and her prognosis and all these things. And then in October, someone close to me in my life died. And that was extremely traumatic. I was just crying every day, crying in the middle of the day, crying in public. And I think that was very painful. And because of how my mom has gone through her cancer, where she has not blamed God, she hasn't been angry at God, she's grateful to God for her life. Because of the way she suffered, it's given me like so much strength and this amazing example to not get mad at God when I suffer. And so when this person in my life died, I just accepted that I would be hurt and wounded for a long time, but I didn't get mad at God about it. But it still hurts, and you still, you know, God, he has so much power, and you always wonder, like, why did he let this happen when he heals this person? You know, you always, even if you don't vocalize it or think about it, I feel like you always have that in the back of your head as something that you won't necessarily acknowledge, where you're just like, why did God not intervene in that situation? So yeah, I think all this stuff has been affecting me a lot. So I'm excited to see how I'll grow spiritually and think about getting past that. Sir Harrow says, Dear Lizzie, I've been binge watching your videos for a while now. For 2022, I'm working to become a content creator. In the long run, I'd love to be able to stream and make an income doing what I love. Oh, that's so exciting. I binge watch channels. I just find too. So it's really cool to think that people do that with my videos. Mark, do you know the apparition of Our Lady in Egypt on the roof of the Coptic church in Zaytown? No, I should look into that though, because I've been doing my Marian apparition videos. Danielle says, your story has given me hope majorly when I was at my lowest. Aww. Okay. Danielle, I credit your videos for a lot. I've been wanting to share my story because it's interesting how it kind of parallels yours. Aw. Yeah. Bipolar affects every aspect of your life, so of course it would affect your religion. I've also really been struggling with my bipolar this year, not symptoms, just like analytically how it will affect my life. I was just reading a lot of research about like lifespan, and our lifespan is shortened by 10 to 20 years, and everyone's like, oh, it's because of the suicide rate. That's part of it, but not all of it. There are so many other diseases that are likely caused by, not likely caused, but like people with bipolar, because of how the episodes affect us, it leads to all these other diseases. So we have like a much higher chance of getting dementia, heart disease, stroke, migraines, thyroid disorder, certain types of cancer, drug addiction, alcohol addiction. Like, we're so much more likely to die of other diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is also one of them. So obviously, like, I'm vegan, I work out all the time, like I have an extremely healthy lifestyle, but you just have this chance of developing all these other issues. Alzheimer's is also, we have a higher chance of that. But like one of the things was early onset dementia, and because of the amount of episodes I've had, I have a 4 times increased chance of getting early onset dementia. And it's just like, it's horrible because it's like all these things are outside of your control. And I think a lot of like psychiatrists and stuff, in the way they present it, is very flawed, because my treatment plan was kind of presented to me as, okay, you go on your medication, take your medication every day, work out, eat healthy, make sure to be on a consistent sleep schedule, and you'll be fine. You'll have a great life. You'll be, what is the word they always use? Not working, anyways, functioning. They're like, you'll be a functioning bipolar person. You'll be able to have a job, all these things. And that's kind of it. They're like, oh, the medications prevent the episode. That's great. But then it's like, no, we have all of this brain damage for the rest of our lives. And I was like so shocked, because I've always known schizophrenia has progressive brain damage regardless of how you treat it. Bipolar is the exact same way. So it's like, I do everything possible now to prioritize my health and treat my bipolar, and I'm going to continue having progressive brain damage regardless of what I do. And so it was so hard reading all of this last year, because you just feel completely powerless. It's like, I feel like I've done everything right the past few years, and still I have to deal with all of these comorbidity diseases and all these things. So yep, that was sad this year too, but it's good being armed with all the information. I've started doing this brain game. I mean, I've kind of always done it, but I've gone like months without doing it. It's called Elevate. So it's like a brain game, and you basically do like math, reading comprehension, you know, converting between different measurements, grammar, you know, all these different things, history, science. And it's just like brain games, but it's really, really fun. They have really cool sound effects, and it's like a competition, and like the graphics and everything are so fun. So even though you're doing like school type things, it's fun. And they give you like assignments to do every day. It only recommends 5 minutes a day, but you can obviously do more. So it's supposed to really grow your brain, create more neurotransmitters. So I've been really focused on doing that, and then just doing like more reading and thinking and like analytical work. It also helps your brain and like prevents like dementia and Alzheimer's and things like that. So like there are things to do to support your health, but also it's like so many factors out of your control. So veganism extends your lifespan by on average 15 years. So bipolar decreases your lifespan by 10-20 years. So that means I'm gonna have a pretty normal life. I'm gonna have a regular lifespan. We'll see though. I think I'm gonna live longer though, just because like all the things that make bipolar people die younger, like heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, types of cancer, like veganism is supposed to prevent all of those. So I feel like, yeah, we don't know, but we'll see. The really interesting thing though, we have 1 minute left, is that they look at the DNA of people with bipolar, and it's the same with Down syndrome and schizophrenia, but you can look at DNA and like see how long someone has lived. And like with bipolar, Down syndrome, schizophrenia, our DNA makes it look like we're older than we actually are because of how much like our body is worn out by the illness, which is crazy. So that's something they've discovered about bipolar. We age faster. Okay, it has been 2 hours so far on this live stream. New videos going up next week. I'm really excited for my filming day tomorrow. I will be up to live stream next week. So excited to be back for 2022. I'm also starting a newsletter. So if you go to my website, LizziesAnswers.com, there should be a pop-up where you can sign up for my newsletter. I'm gonna be doing monthly newsletters, just giving a life update, talking about like upcoming content coming out, sharing my favorite books I read that month. So it's gonna be really fun. And you can unsubscribe at any time if you want. It's just gonna be one newsletter a month. So really excited to connect with you guys over that and post more on social media. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.